Well, good evening and welcome to this important weekly update from the Southwest Coalition for Life. I apologize, the last couple of weeks it's been crazy and we haven't gotten you an update recently. We've also just been trying to figure out the status of everything that's going on. And so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right in and get some updates on the status of House Bill 7, which there's going to be an important action that you can take to help stop this bill happening tomorrow. And so we're going to pull on our legislative advocate, Rebecca Dow, to talk about this bill first and foremost. So Rebecca, thank you again for joining us. What's been going on with House Bill 7?
Well, it's kind of no movement for a little bit. And there is tomorrow's March 1st. Legislative session ends at noon on the 16th. So there's 16 days of session left. It's been assigned to two committees in the Senate, and then it has the Senate floor. If there are no amendments, if it passes the House floor, it'll go to the governor's desk for signature. So we have two more committees, the Senate floor vote, and then petitioning the governor to vote no. So we just learned today, I think it was afternoon that we learned that House Bill 7, so not even 24 hours, right at 24 hours notice, that it would be heard tomorrow in Health and Public Works Committee, Public Affairs, in the Senate at 1:30, and that is in room 311. So anybody.
Oh, Rebecca, looks like you just dropped out with your video, on my end at least.
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay. You're back.
Okay, come up in person and fill that committee room with people who are in opposition. We need your prayers. We need your support. And you can also participate by Zoom. I'm sure Mark's going to be sending out a link. I posted it on my page on Facebook, a link where you can participate by Zoom. This committee requires you to email your intent to the staffer there that you want to participate in Zoom and you want to express your support or opposition. And I would think that everyone here is in opposition. And one of the things that's really been heavy on my heart is there are parents who choose to enter into a marriage. They make a vow before their family, their friends, and in their church before God that they are joined together and they are going to actively parent and to partner together in raising healthy children. And what House Bill 7 does is take that right away. And it goes further beyond that. If there is someone at your child's school right now, I had a friend who told me today her daughter went to the doctor. She's 16 years old. The mother wasn't allowed an appointment. So the daughter is texting her mom saying, "What's a pharmacist? Do I want a prescription?" I mean, the mother was separated from the minor child, and that happens at the age of 14. This bill will take that away. It's absolutely heart-wrenching. And so please keep up the prayers. I've really appreciated the devotions, the daily devotions coming out of your group, and thank you so much for that. It's been uplifting for me to read scripture and to know truth in light of all the deception that's being pushed on our communities and our schools and on our families and unfortunately in the capital of New Mexico.
And how timely too, like you bring it up, we're right in the middle of now our 40 Days for Life vigil, prayer and fasting, and right here in this new front line where the battle is just so difficult legislatively. And a little bit later, I'm going to have Mike jump on because he's actually got some good news in spite of a lot of this struggle that has been really overwhelming for a lot of people with everything going on. But correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, this is the same bill in one of the last committees that they pretty much said in so many words that that state officials know better the healthcare decisions than for your own child than the parents.
During the House debate, which lasted 3 hours, and I'm so proud of the Republicans that stood up and debated this bill and sought truth in this bill. One of the amendments was that parents had a right to know. And one of the freshman representatives stood up and said she has a 10-year-old daughter, and she's taught her daughter to make these decisions on her own without her. And she trusts her daughter to go to a caring adult, this is a 10-year-old, and make these decisions without, if she didn't feel like she needed a parent input, that's okay with this mom. And I just sat there and listened to this and thought, that is so much the opposite of Deuteronomy 6 and what we're called to do in training up children in the way they should go. We want to be active parents. We want to engage in our children and be informed when they are dealing with such a difficult situation. This is either around abortion, wanting to change their gender, their identity that they've been created as, male or female, with the exception of very rare abnormalities, but people are, and now we're seeing birth certificates say parents assigned gender at birth, this gender at birth, but, and for access to birth control and other sorts of contraceptives. When someone's that young, there's probably ill intent involved there, and it shouldn't be happening, and there should be CYFD reporting, and so it's very concerning.
Yeah. Okay. So the call to action, everybody, is to we'll be putting out an email. You can also go to newfrontline.org, and on that page, it's been updated just today with the list of. Make sure I have this right. So right now, it is at the Senate Health and Public Affairs Committee that we have to call, email, and then join. But we have to email ahead of time saying if you want to make public comment. We'll put that information on there as well. That's currently not on there. I'm glad you told me that. I actually didn't know that until right now, Rebecca.
Each committee handles it differently, and this committee says email the staff person who's in charge of that committee and let them know you want to speak.
Okay. I will. I might text you to make sure we get the right email address for people to, if anyone does feel called to join that and request public comment, that we'll want to make sure we get that right instructions for them. So we'll update that soon by the end of tonight and get out an email as well. But in the meantime, you can go there and you can find the Senate Health and Public Affairs Committee to tell them to vote no on HB 7. So Rebecca, thank you for that update. Is there anything else? I know you got a speaking engagement here in a little bit.
No, I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you all. I am so proud to be part. I mean, this is the greatest genocide of our generation is abortion, and now they're after the very identity of our children. And so I appreciate everyone who's willing to be in the fight and the opportunity to partner with you in doing so.
God bless you, Rebecca. I appreciate you so much. All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Okay, so I also want to make sure we get an update from our friends over at New Mexico Right to Life. So I'm going to bring on their executive director, Ms. Ethel Meharg. Ethel, looks like you're muted, but I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to give everyone an update. It's been a couple of weeks. There's been a lot of stuff going on for New Mexico Right to Life. I know you recently were working with John Block, and there's just been a lot of encouraging news. What have you got for us this week?
Well, just that. I think the encouraging news was the heartbeat bill. And, we know it would go nowhere. And of course, they tabled it because they don't want to put their name on it because there's a lot of people that would really be upset with them. But I was really, really proud of him because he dared to put out a heartbeat bill here in New Mexico, in the middle of the giants. So, that was great. And I was really proud of him. And then, so now we're keeping track of HB 7, seeing where it is. And now, I got great news too, that ACLJ just contacted me today because they want to help in this fight. I mean, New Mexico is on the front line. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, all over the nation. And so they jump in, and I got a call, and I actually sent this information forward for senators so that they would have it. And basically HB 7, let me read you what they said. Because what happens is they're showing that this bill, and this is coming through a lot of bills, not just abortion, but they have a lot of bills. And what happens is they're like a model bill, and it is going all over in every state. And basically HB 7, it has been taken from a bill that California and Maryland did. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it is a product of that. So this isn't new just to New Mexico. It's going on every place. But what's happening here is Maryland and California both introduced similar language in bills last year, the intent of which was to shield women and abortionists from prosecution, because it's not the women, but the abortionists from prosecution for the death of a baby born alive after a botched late-term abortion. The language is slightly different in this bill, but it's got the same argument. So what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to protect the abortionists in this. And that's why they're going after, their HB 7 is to separate the parents from their children, and also to shield the abortionists from any kind of maybe legal damages, like Mike Seibel and all his work, Mike and Lisa and the Shavers, all the work that they do, and that's what they're trying to do, is squash that so that they cannot bring that forward if there is an abortion that goes wrong. So, it's really important that we fight against this bill because we need to see that we bring people to justice that are guilty, and that we protect our children, the most vulnerable. It's like Rebecca said, it is kind of scary when your kids get taken in there and you can't be in there with them and they don't know what's going on. They're scared, so I think it's important that we step up and, protect our kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because this is a fairly, we're just now putting some information up at newfrontline.org about this extra now Senate bill that you're talking about, Senate Bill 13. And so real quick, I just want to pull that up and show folks that if you go to newfrontline.org, then there's a new second petition. We already have the one that people have been acting on for House Bill 7. This has been updated because as these bills go through this process of going through 2 committees before going to the House floor, and then it's going to go to the other legislative body, and now go through the 2 Senate committees and go to the Senate floor before it goes to the governor's desk. So you can always see the status of that, and then this is always going to be updated with the most recent committee that now needs to be petitioned. So just because you've sent an email once in the past, that was a different committee. We got to do it again. Right. But you brought up, and I'm so glad you did, this new Senate Bill 13. Right. And I honestly, this has kind of been rushed in, and I didn't really fully understand this until today, Ethel. But we just put together a new petition talking about this because it's really going to make this more difficult for women who've been harmed by the abortion industry to receive proper care and redress for those crimes against them. And any kind of legal compensation for harm that's been done to them. It's limiting those malpractice damages, protecting the abortion industry rather than women, essentially creating a safe harbor for criminal abortionists. Because now if an abortionist in another state has been in violation of the law, they can now come to New Mexico, and there's nothing that can be done because of the Senate Bill 13. And so this is incredibly dangerous. And also, frankly, it's just a violation of free speech because of these organizations like you talked about, like Abortion Free New Mexico and Abortion on Trial that work within the confines of the First Amendment. Really, in an unregulated state where abortion is completely unregulated, the only regulation has been because of free speech and organizations and watchdog organizations who have been keeping them accountable and helping women who've been harmed. And I'm so grateful that you brought that up, Ethel, because this has just recently kind of come on some folks' radar. So, and this has already gotten through the Senate Health and Public Affairs.
I know. I think that people need to understand that SB 13 is not really HB 7.
Right.
In fact, it's got like about 10 more pages than HB 7 does. And that really is set to violate our First Amendment rights. You see everything that's going on there, the gun rights and all these. All of it is to take away our ability to speak freely and to violate our First Amendment right to speak, to gather, to protest, if you will. And so we need to be like on top of all this. And that bill, like you said, that SB 13, I think elaborates a little bit more about like the communities that became I can't even think the places where that they would ban abortion, sanctuary cities for the unborn. And so this bill here is really attacking that. And it's, with Raul Torres, the Attorney General. And so people need to really pay attention because SB 13 has a lot more language than HB 7. And it really isn't HB 7. It's one that's a little bit more. So HB 7 now is going to the Senate Public Affairs Committee tomorrow. And man, we need people to show up there. It makes such a big difference. In fact, I'll tell you, when we went and supported Senator Schmetty's on Simon's Law, it passed. And 4 years ago, it didn't pass. And it was because I was the only one there testifying. But in this turn, the room was full of us. And there was, I think, 4 or 5 of us that got to testify on behalf of that bill. And it passed. In fact, I was shocked that Senator Ortiz y Pino broke the tie. I was thanking God for that, but and that truly is a God thing. So we really need to reach out to these people. We need to pray for them because, we just need to pray for them.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. It's just hard to see what they're doing to our state, and without much thought, as to, I don't know if they don't understand that it will affect their children as well. Down the line. So we need to be, as parents, vigilant. And, we need to be like the state like Virginia, that everything turned around because the parents stood up for their kids. Right. And that was it. And so we need to do the same here.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you point that out, because these are two very different bills. The HB7 that we've already known about, that one has been called the Reproductive and Gender Affirming Healthcare Freedom Act, and they use that word freedom, of course, in their crazy understanding of the word, to try to allow these things to happen. But the Senate Bill 13 is the Reproductive and Gender Affirming Healthcare Protection Act, and it's more about the putting in legal things in place to make it even more difficult to, if some woman's been harmed, then they're not able to get the legal protections and support that they need. So thank you for bringing that up and drawing attention to that.
Sure.
Absolutely. And thank you too for I still have not personally been able to make it up there. It's been so crazy down here, and it's quite a drive. But I do need to come and join you soon. But I'm just so grateful, and I'm constantly telling people to make sure that they're going to New Mexico Right to Life, and following those updates, because you've been there on the ground in Santa Fe, right in the lion's den, and we're super grateful for you, Ethel.
Yeah, well, it's important. I know that they don't like us showing up, but it's very, very important. And now that there's people on Zoom and testifying, and I understand that tomorrow they're going to limit us to like 6, and they're limiting comments from our side. They don't want to hear it.
Right.
But we're still speaking out, and people are listening, and more people are understanding what is going on. So I appreciate that. But I'm pleading with people right now. If you can be in Santa Fe tomorrow at 1, I always tell people like half hour early, like 1 o'clock, because it's at 1:30, right? 1 o'clock, come to room 113 and join us. And for the most part, you just sit there and you listen, and there's going to be some expert witnesses that are going to be there testifying on behalf, telling you about the dangers of it, of transgender, about the abortion. There's going to be medical professionals, and so we're really blessed to have these people that are going to come on. And then of course our wonderful senators that always stand up, our representatives and senators, and they do such a great job. And so we need to be there for them. Can you imagine the beating that they've taken this year? Oh, it's been rough, poor things. And so that's one reason I try to go, is because they're in there fighting this fight for us, and they need to see some faces and people hugging them, to know that there's people there that support them. So if you can come, please come.
That's tomorrow, 1:30. I know a lot of people are working, but if at all possible, if you drive over there to Santa Fe, what room number you said?
113. Let me verify. Yeah.
113 at the Roundhouse in Santa Fe.
I'm sorry, 311. 311.
Right. Room 311 at the Roundhouse in Santa Fe, if at all you can make it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Ethel.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. God bless you.
Okay. And we're going to wrap up here. I wanted to bring one more person on to share some good news and explain a little bit more. Ethel brought up this kind of new Senate Bill 13 about Mr. Mike Seibel from Abortion on Trial. Thank you again for joining us, Mike. I know you just got out of Mass, so I appreciate you hopping on. But Ethel was just talking about Senate Bill 13. This is something that kind of has slipped in a little bit under the radars, and so we're just kind of understanding this a little bit better. But this kind of companion bill, if you will, that kind of takes a different approach to this whole transgender and abortion act. How is this something that's going to affect you?
Well, it's going to affect us getting information out to our potential clients in this situation. It looks as though they're trying to limit the sharing of provider information on the internet, in articles, everything else, which is really going to affect us because we get most of our clients from Abortion on Trial, Facebook, or on abortionontrial.org, or out of Live Action, or your articles, or you're sharing our stuff amongst New Mexico people. So we get a lot of clients that way. It's going to limit information to the women who are hurt by abortion. And I think that is a travesty. It's also going to limit, investigations of what we do on abortions, all throughout the state. It may even limit Live Action articles themselves from being printed. So, this is going to give the abortion industry an out. Women are not going to know where to go. They're not going to know to go to Abortion on Trial, where we have a great track record of holding abortionists accountable. That's just one of the issues of SB 13. So I think,
Is it wrong when I'm reading it? Is it correct to use this idea that it's almost creating a safe harbor for like illegal abortionists or criminal abortionists?
Yeah, I mean, the way I read this bill is they're really giving a safe harbor to abortionists from Alabama and Texas who may have committed wrongs in those states, and then they're not allowing us to extradite those into Texas or Alabama or Oklahoma or places where they have criminal convictions. And it's a little unclear on whether or not if it was really something heinous like a sexual assault could be limited to the extradition and the prosecution and the investigation of those claims could be limited by the New Mexico courts if they move here. So I think it's a really safe harbor for criminal abortionists. We're going to get people who've been disbarred in other states, like Leah Torres, who cut the vocal cords of the babies and like to quote hear them scream. She was disbarred in Alabama. Can she now come here and practice? I mean, she's a dangerous abortionist. So I really think that this is going to even impact women more in the future. This is a really scary time for New Mexico women. They don't even know if they have qualified. Well, I mean, abortionists, in my opinion, are never qualified, but they don't even know if they have qualified doctors, if we want to use the word doctors in this situation. This is a travesty. I think New Mexico is making a gigantic mistake. We're going to kill more women. We're going to injure more women. We're going to have more women infertile. It's just going to be horrible.
And just when I thought abortion in New Mexico couldn't be more unregulated, they found a way now to make it essentially now like even out-of-state abortionists that were at least regulated by interstate law, situations like that. Now they're making it so that even that doesn't apply. So they're just finding more and more ways to make it less, more and more of the Wild West out here. But a lot of a lot of reasons people are concerned with all these bills and laws. But at the same time, you've always got a way of pointing out that even in spite of all this, life is still winning and there's still good news happening. What can people?
I'm going to tell you, I came from Mass today. I am so excited, Mark. On March 2nd, the first legal clinic after Roe versus Wade will be closing permanently in Dallas, Texas. The Southwestern Women's Surgery Center, which we have fought from here in New Mexico, all of us combined together, is closing their doors permanently. And this is a huge, huge victory for New Mexican on our streets, on our sidewalks, and everywhere else. They will no longer be referring from Dallas, Texas, in their facility there, which I have litigated that issue over and over again. I know they've been referring hundreds of women a month from that facility out here. They're no longer going to be doing that. Praise God. This is a huge monumental victory. It confirms what we announced the other day, that they're no longer doing late-term abortions. We are no longer the late-term abortion capital of America. This is a great reason to celebrate. We have achieved what is nearly impossible, to end late-term abortion in a city where it was the leader in the nation, and now they're closing their facility in Texas, which they used to refer to here. This is amazing news. DC, Maryland, Colorado, you can fight over who's going to be the next late-term capital, but it ain't us.
And that's amazing. And this is in spite of the fact that everything in New Mexico, as far as the laws and politics go, seems like it's just getting more concerning and worse. God is still showing up victorious in spite of this. And I just want to set this context. So this is Curtis Boyd, the notorious late-term abortionist who's been doing abortions up to term in the state of New Mexico. Recently, though, has stopped doing late-term abortions past, what was it? How many weeks?
Past 24 weeks, the third trimester and beyond.
And he's had his second facility in Dallas, Texas, where they've done limited abortions there up until Dobbs, and they've now just been operating that as a referral center, sending Texas women to New Mexico. And now that facility, which I didn't realize, you're saying this was the first or second abortion center open after Roe.
So this was the first abortion center ever. This is a huge, huge victory. So 500,000 abortions took place under Curtis Boyd in Dallas, Texas alone. Wow. Another 200,000 here, but 500,000. If we go back into the history of abortion in America, we're coming full circle. Curtis Boyd was, first operating in Dallas, Texas, and New Mexico. The first legal clinic in New Mexico he opened up here. Then they litigated Roe versus Wade. There was the opening of the first legal clinic in Dallas, Texas, by Curtis Wayne Boyd, the first one in Dallas, that is, or the whole state of Texas. There were others in the country, including the one in New Mexico. And then, we come back, Dobbs overturns Roe versus Wade. So that's no longer, and now the clinic's no longer. Guess what? Next, it's New Mexico. We're going to get this clinic closed. This is going to be amazing stuff.
And I always point out that Texas and New Mexico, truly neighbors, are so linked. It is so important for people to realize this in so many ways, even going back to the beginning with the abortion industry and Curtis Boyd having facilities in both of those states. In fact, I just pulled up their website. If you go to the southwesternwomen's.com, which is the you can see up here in the top, this is the website for the abortion facilities both in Dallas and Albuquerque. And here's where they have recently changed. They used to have third trimester abortions, and they no longer have that listed. And then that was just a few weeks ago, was that major victory. And then here on the right, you could see their Dallas facility. It says they're heartbroken to inform them that they are permanently ceasing operations. Their last day will be this week, March 2nd, 2023. That is an amazing. We need to screenshot this and make sure that this goes down in history. This is a huge, huge, huge victory and win. So praise be to God. Thank you, Mike, for having such a huge role and being instrumental in this.
We got to thank our people in Texas that you and I have worked with: Karen Garnett, Lauren Muzica, Paul Borchard, Mark Lee Dixon. I mean, they were instrumental. But all the people on our side: Elisa Martinez, Ethel, Paula Gonzalez, Al Brown, Kurt Cooper. This doesn't happen overnight. This is a 7.5-year concerted effort, and I really appreciate those people. And if you can take time this Friday, wherever you're at, at 5 o'clock on Friday. That'll be the end of that date. I would say go to mass, say a prayer, do something. Be grateful for God for this huge victory. I mean, an abortion clinic that did almost 1% of what Roe was for the last 50 years, is now closed. Praise be to God. What a wonderful victory.
This is amazing. Mike, thank you so much. I'm always so appreciative. And it's so important that people realize this, that in spite of the laws, in spite of the politics, life is winning, as our friend Ethel always said. And this just is yet another opportunity to show that we see facilities closing in spite of the laws and politics. We're seeing promising signs. We announced at our 40 Days Kickoff Rally, the facility in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, in spite of the laws and political situation, an influx of women coming, is potentially closing by the end of this year with an expiring lease that they're not renewing. And it's because of the prayers, it's because of the fasting, it's because of the action that people are taking. It doesn't matter what Caesars are doing. We got to do that civic duty, but God can always prevail in spite of that. So, Mike, thank you so much. Any parting words before we wrap up for tonight?
Well, you know what? Keep your eyes open. We're gonna make sure Theo doesn't have a reason to go forward on that lease in the next couple of weeks. So we're gonna have some fun. There's gonna be some great lawsuits, amazing stuff. Pray for Jonathan and I in the New Mexico Supreme Court. Pray for the Amarillo lawsuit in the next coming month. Just keep those prayers pouring in. We're about to be on even more amazing than overturning Roe versus Wade. We're gonna end abortion.
All right, Mike, thanks so much. Have a good night. God bless. And again, you guys, everyone go to newfrontline.org. You'll find those updated petitions for the next phase, the next step for House Bill 7, as well as Senate Bill 13. And we're going to update those even more with the contact information if you want to be one of those to speak in the public comment portion against HB 7 tomorrow. And definitely share this video. And this will be also there at newfrontline.org. So you can share that, just one simple link for everybody. So again, thank you for all your prayers, your action. This is what makes a difference. We can't do it without you. God bless.